Hi, everyone. I am Connie Zabo-Schmucker. I'm Advocacy Director at Bicycle Garage Indy. And tonight's program on Spotlight on Bicycling is highlighting Bike Indianapolis. So we've got Lane Wolf from Bike Indianapolis, Damon Richards from Bike Indianapolis. Lane is the Communications Director, and he's going to be basically the main presenter, but we've got some other people from Bike Indianapolis here as well, in case there are questions that he can't answer. We've got a program next month is going to be about Bike Month, because May is Bike Month. And so I'll highlight some of the activities that we know about that are going on. One of them is the Ride of Silence that I'm still working on. I'm planning with Dolly Craft, and we're co-leading that. It will be on Wednesday, May 18th. This year, the Ride of Silence is an event that honors the memory of bicyclists who have been killed and or injured in the previous year. And this year, we're highlighting the intersection of 86 and the Monons. We're going to start from Bicycle Garage Indy North and go on 82nd to 86th Street to the Monon and then return. Primarily, well, we're going to highlight that intersection partially because our Bicycle Garage Indy employee, Frank Radiker, was killed at that intersection when he was riding to work. And to highlight need for changes there, but also we will be honoring everybody who was injured or killed in the past year through this ride. So if you're interested in being involved in planning that, I've got a planning meeting tomorrow. So just let me know. You can drop your email in the chat and I'll invite you to it. And then just save the date, May 18th, for future details about the event. It'll start at 6:30. Wheels will roll at 7 p.m. And then also working on trying to get, as I mentioned, needed changes at that intersection. So if you'd be interested in working on that as well, let me know. And then, of course, there will be Bike to Work Day. There's, I'm sure, things that Lane is going to talk about that are coming up in May. But Bike to Work Day is always one of them, and Bike to the 500. I think May 4th is Bike to School Day. So if you have any children, that's a great day to get them to ride their bike or walk to school. And of course, the Ride of Silence on the 18th. So I will turn this over to Lane and have you go ahead and go through your presentation and tell us all about what's happening with Bike Indianapolis.
Okay, thank you so much, Connie. Hello, everyone. My name is Lane Wolf. As Connie mentioned, I work with Bike Indianapolis as the Director of Communications. And then here we have Damon Richards, also our Executive Director, who, in case I forget anything, he'll be speaking up to help me out here. But for the most part, tonight's presentation is going to highlight our accomplishments from 2021, as well as then our plans for 2022. I'll be sure to mention a lot of the upcoming rides we have and community rides we'll have throughout the bike season, and then different ways for Indianapolis and Central Indiana residents to get involved, not only with Bike Indianapolis, but just in the bike advocacy and larger cycling community here in Indianapolis. So moving on to our next slide. This is a lot of words, I know, so you don't feel any pressure to read it all, but just a little, who is Bike Indianapolis? Bike Indianapolis began in 2009 as IndyCog, which was a bicycle blog here in Central Indiana, with the mission of just creating more bicycle riders. As time went on and Indianapolis pushed to become a bicycle-friendly city, IndyCog became the city's bike advocacy organization. And which is what we are now. In May of 2018, we changed our name to Bike Indianapolis in order to align more with other bike advocacy groups across the country. But speaking about bike advocacy, education, and ride programming are the three pillars of the work we do. So first and foremost, in terms of advocacy, we work with city, county officials and government, other nonprofits to improve the policy and infrastructure in central Indiana to create a more bicycle-friendly city. Our mission is to create more bicycle riders in central Indiana. And of course, the best way to do that is by creating infrastructure and policies that protect them while on ride. The second prong, like I mentioned, is going to be education. I'll have a breakdown of all of these later on when I talk about our 2022 goals, but that goes in terms of educating not only bicycle riders, but also pedestrians and drivers and motorists as well, about how to share the road and public space with bicycle riders. So everyone can be as educated to share the road as possible. And then third, we have our ride programming. That is going to be where we have that's going to house all of our community rides, different programs like Bike Buddies, which I'll talk more about later on. But those three things are really going to be the foundation of all the work we do, from advocacy to education to ride programming. To tell you a little bit more about Bike Indianapolis, we have our team here. As I mentioned, we have Damon Richards there, our executive director. In the upper right-hand corner, we have Trent Taylor. He is the chair of our advocacy committee. They meet every month to discuss different policies that we're hoping to see, different projects they're wanting to push through in an official capacity to, like I said, make Indianapolis a more bike-friendly city, and to encourage more people to feel comfortable riding. Of course, last year in 2021, we also had Silva Zhang, who was our director of community engagement and outreach. She helped us do a lot of different volunteer programming and really revitalize our volunteer program to give Bike Indianapolis members and community members in general more opportunities to get involved with not only bike advocacy, but just opportunities to ride in general. Of course, there's me, and then also our butler intern, Emery, who actually spearheaded a lot of our community rides. He is in the process of writing his senior thesis, actually. He's about to finish up, which was he kind of used the community rides as a space to interview Indianapolis riders about the hurdles that prevented them from riding, what they liked about riding in Indianapolis, and how can we create more infrastructure or more policies to create a more bike-friendly city. So we're really excited to have gotten to work with Emery there to kind of create like a tangible report that we can show city officials of like, look, this is what people like about riding in Indianapolis. Here are some things that we would like to see change. Moving on, we also have our board of directors. The board of directors is going to be our fundraising kind of arm of Bike Indianapolis. A great group of people here. We also, I will say, are expanding our board. So if you're the kind of person who has rich friends and wants to join our board, please do. I would absolutely love that. But they do a lot of the behind the scenes work to help us kind of fuel our projects. But getting into some of our accomplishments from 2021. This was one of my favorite projects here. I'm just going to go through these one by one, but the Bike Light program that we started, that was a project that started in our advocacy committee. One of our advocacy members, Jaron Burdine, had a connection with Bicycle Lane Uprising, which is a technology group in Chicago. They have an online database where you can report bike lane obstructions. And if you go onto a Bike Lane Uprising, you can literally look at the Indianapolis map and not only report bike lane obstructions, cars parked in the bike lanes that are closed, but you can also see maps of previous bike lane obstructions to kind of see what infrastructure needs more protection. But they also had a program where we fundraised $7,000 with other advocacy groups from around the country to secure 200 sets of bike lights for Indianapolis. And we are now in the process of distributing those bike lights to lightless riders. That's been a really great program because it's just kind of the thing where that was one person had an idea about wanting to do something like change they'd like to see in their own, in the bicycling community, pitched the idea, and we were able to all come together to fundraise $7,000. And we're now very much like giving back to the community, which is a great thing that I like to see. I'll go straight to the right here on the slide. You can see with neighborhood rides, I mentioned those earlier, but we established 4 weekly neighborhood rides last year, which was really just to serve as a purpose as creating a safe space that met every single week, that neighbors could come together, go for a ride in their own community. I participate in the Near East Side ride with John Hayes. It was always an adventure because he's lived in the Near East Side for, I believe he's 13 years now, works in the Near East Side as well, and always had just a ton of to share. That's another program that we'll be relaunching here in May, hoping to start even more community rides. So if anyone joining in tonight is really interested in going for rides with your neighbors, it's kind of a very simple, like, weekly thing to do. And I will say, in my personal experience, most of the people I saw at my neighborhood ride, I saw only once a week at the neighborhood ride. So it's kind of a really great way just to kind of catch up with your neighbors after a long week. But that's one of our big programs. We also have the Ride Guides program, which is now lovingly being titled as the Bike Buddies program. In 2021, we partnered with Commuter Connect to train 20 Indianapolis bike riders, and also recruit new bike riders who then would be paired with them so they could go on rides together. This kind of program is one where new riders who are maybe a little uncomfortable or seeking a bit of guidance to kind of learn the tips and tricks of biking around Indianapolis will be assigned with a veteran rider who then can show them routes, different kind of tricks to getting around the city and feeling more comfortable while biking. And that's another program which kind of then becomes self-sustaining as the newer riders get that experience and then can become those veteran ride guides later on. We have larger community rides here, like Bike to the 500, which is one of our rides coming up. That's going to be May 29th. You can find that on our website and sign up if you're interested in that. Hundreds of people, like you can see this photo here on the right side. That's the bike valet from Bike to the 500. But everyone rides out together. We host bike parking there. And like I said, that's gonna be May 29th. That's one of our largest events. We just had Bike to the Ballpark as well with the Indianapolis Indians at their opening night. And we'll have even more community rides coming up throughout the year. We had 6 different league certified instructors trained this past year, which was just a great opportunity for us to educate veteran riders on then how to teach new riders how to ride. Another program where as more people get more comfortable riding, they can go through this training and then actually get certified to train others to go on rides. Along with BGI, we helped to support 9 virtual lunch and learns that had various different topics. Those run through, Connie, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's March through October.
Actually, I think it's February through October. I think we started in February. We might have not started until March.
Yeah,
this year, but a lot of times it's February through October.
But yeah, those are just virtual educational lunch and learns. You don't even have to leave the office. You can just have your packed lunch right there and join in on those. It's the 3rd Thursday of the month. And we actually just had, last week, we had a panel of different bicycle groups come on and talk about different community rides that they host. And then, of course, we had the World Day of Remembrance Vigil, which was one of our larger events. Last year, we saw a record number of bicyclists die due to traffic violence. So we organized the World Day of Remembrance Vigil and challenged the city to create a fatal crash response team to investigate infrastructure surrounding crash sites. Myself or Damon can give a larger update on that later on. I know we have another slide about that, but that was one of those events that went over really well and really brought together the cycling community in a very positive way to talk about the change we'd like to see here in Indianapolis. And then on just like a membership level, like an organizational level, we saw a 39% increase in membership, which was just kind of a great way of seeing like, oh yeah, our little bike family is growing. Every year, more people are getting involved, not only riding bikes, but also in bike advocacy as well. And then I have just a few photos from 2021 as well. Here we have, from the left, you'll see the Bike to the 500 group of volunteers that helped out. We have, in this middle, we have the bike lights being distributed to community members here. I actually believe that was taken in 2022. Once we had received those lights and everything, but that was fully funded through 2021. The bicycle lunch and learn right below it. There's a photo I snapped of the Near East Side neighborhood ride, as John stopped to tell us about one of the parks in our community. And then also a photo of the World Day of Remembrance Vigil. And if at any point any of you have any questions, please feel free to throw those in the chat. And if Connie, you want to let me know if like any questions come up in the chat or anything, I'm more than willing to address those. So. And then looking forward to the new writing season. Like I said, when I mentioned our board of directors, we are expanding our board of directors. So we were hoping to appoint at least 5 new members to our board to help with our fundraising efforts. You'll see in these next few slides that I have set these up. So these are all of our goals organizationally in terms of advocacy, education, and ride programming. But I also highlighted the opportunities where people can get involved, because we had a lot of people reaching out to us looking for opportunities to get involved. And we wanted to go ahead and give these in a presentation that was very specific. So like I said, if you're interested in joining a board, our board is looking for new members. As I mentioned, our board is the fundraising arm of Bike Indianapolis. So that kind of leads very well into the second point of just looking to increase and diversify our funding sources, so we can help protect the long-term longevity of just bicycling in Indianapolis and creating a more bike-friendly city. We aspire to continue to be the leading voice in terms of bicycle advocacy in central Indiana, which has been a really great experience, especially from my perspective, working with local news organizations to just get biking more in the news and talk about it less as just so kind of a hobby thing that people do, and more as a legitimate means of transportation that many of our community members go through. And then this last point was something that Silva Zhang worked on very well, but revitalizing volunteer opportunities to give people more room to get involved with the organization in whatever way they kind of feel most comfortable. I see there is a notification in the chat. Yeah, about the lights available. We have lights available. If you go to bikeindianapolis.org, we have a post in our blog portion about the lights. We have those, and Bike Indianapolis members can request those lights. We'll hand deliver them to you, and we pass them out to community members without writing them. I didn't get a chance to read your whole chat there, but yeah, we have plenty. So it's one of those things where we are definitely able to pass them out and spare some here and there. We actually are very fortunate to also be collecting data. One of my favorite parts about this project is that it is a project that also collects data to let us know where are the holes in our bicycle system where people need bike lights. I previously was a journalist, so I am a big data nerd for finding that kind of stuff out. So this is our way of Bike Indianapolis kind of putting together more information to learn about who needs lights, what members of our community are underserved in terms of bicycle infrastructure and amenities. Moving on to the advocacy portion of our slide or of our presentation, we have the fatal crash response team. Damon, do you want to mention this? Because you are very much in charge in terms of this one.
Well, we have for some time been trying to get the city to reestablish its fatal crash team. It had become an internal organization, and so there was no public visibility or transparency into the process. And I'm glad to say that with our pushing and the help of many others, the city has done that. And that group met for the first time a couple weeks ago, and actually they just finished that meeting today. I missed out on part 2. And the task force will meet quarterly to review all fatal crashes from the previous quarter, pedestrian, bicycle, motorist, whatever, with a goal of, with a lens of what could be done differently by the city to have prevented or lessened the fatality that happened or the crash that happened. We reviewed, oh gosh, I lost track of how many fatal crashes. And as expected, the majority of fatal crashes are motorist crashes. But there was a larger than normal number of bicycle fatalities. And just the pedestrian fatalities are always larger than I ever expect they'll be. The head of that task force is working on a final report, and we're still having some conversations about what happens to that report. But Bike Indianapolis is pushing for that to become a public document that people can look at and see, what can be done and why isn't it being done, and we can have that as the next conversation. That's all.
Thank you so much, Damon. So as Damon mentioned, that is a kind of ongoing process. There was a lot of, I think you mentioned you looked at crashes over the last year and a half. So there's kind of a lot of backlogging there to do. And as they create that report, Bike Indianapolis and other pedestrian and bike advocates I know are pushing for that report to become public. Like I said, there's a lot of bicycle data that is not accessible or just simply not being counted right now in Indianapolis. So our biggest goal is to make sure that information is then available to the public as well. So that'll be something that stay tuned. We'll have more updates for that coming soon, or just as time goes on. Moving on to the number 2 in the advocacy goals. And I will say all of these goals were created by our advocacy committee. So like I mentioned, Trent Taylor, our advocacy chair, had a huge hand in creating these goals, especially this trail signage. A large hurdle, I think, for a lot of people in Indianapolis is that there's inconsistent trail signage and wayfinding resources, especially on the trail. It can be hard to determine what is actually a safe bike route and what is not based on what signage is available. So that's an ongoing project with the advocacy committee to push for better trail signage and also finding opportunities to fund different signage and create more wayfinding opportunities. So if you are ever on a trail, you can easily find a map close to you, so you can find what connections are close and where you're going. Then number 3, this was another thing we're working on. I mentioned bike lane obstructions previously. We've actually created a printout that is a like educational piece of material for riders to carry along with them and leave on the windshield, like under the windshield wiper of cars parked in the bike lane. I live right next to the Pennsylvania bike lane, so I am no stranger to bike lane obstructions. And almost not a day goes by where there's not someone parked in that bike lane. So this is something that we're working on, not only to let people know that they parked in the bike lane, but to create some long-term education for drivers of where bike lanes are as we continue to push for better protected infrastructure as well. And then moving on to this 4th bullet point here, or this 4th task item, neighborhood speeds we started an initiative in 2021 called Slow Streets or Safe Streets. And it was just kind of an educational program where we listed the dangers of, as speed accelerates, the likelihood of a crash becoming fatal. And that was information that we pushed out over the last year that we continue to use as we publish more and more information about advocating for slower neighborhood streets. I believe it's at 20 miles an hour, there is a 95% chance that you survive like being hit by a vehicle while either crossing the street or biking. But as that speed increases by 10 miles an hour, the percentage of, or the likelihood of that crash becoming fatal goes up to 30%. So we have a lot of streets in Indianapolis that are speed limits of, even in neighborhoods, that are 35 miles an hour. And we are hoping to connect people with the resources they need to reduce those speed limits. We are in a lot of conversations with city county officials. And specifically, I spoke with my city councilor, Zach Adamson, about what it would take to reduce neighborhood speeds. he recently got back to me and said it's as easy as just reaching out to your city county councilor. They have the ability to reduce neighborhood speeds down to 25 miles an hour as you wish. So that's kind of as small as encouraging people to make MAC requests or reach out to their city county councilor. But of course, we create more educational material in the new year as we continue to push for slower streets. Moving on to our educational goals. This is where we really get into a lot of volunteer opportunities. Our work is kind of always about letting people know what resources are available, as well as giving more resources and creating more educational resources, especially for not only bike riders, but motorists as well. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities to get involved here with Bike Indianapolis. Specifically our bicycle friendly drivers training. This is a training that Damon hosts. I believe you mentioned it's quarterly at this point.
Every other month now.
Every other month now. But that's every other month. Damon is hosting a bicycle friendly drivers training. This is a program that we would like to see expanded to all city county employees who operate government vehicles, as well as all Indigo coach operators. Just to ensure that the people who are working for our city and operating vehicles for our city are as educated as possible about how to share the road with cyclists. But this is also a program that's available to individuals in our community as well. That second task here is the road safety adult classes. This is one of those opportunities we're hoping to host 6 different adult road safety classes for Indianapolis residents. So if you are new to cycling and looking for maybe just a quick brush up to learn something, this is one of those opportunities for adults to all come together and become a little bit more comfortable riding in the streets of Indianapolis. Then kind of flipping that same, I guess, different side of the same coin, we have a bike to school program we're looking to expand. And this is an educational program for children to become more comfortable biking to and from school, especially. Damon, I know last year hosted 2 different sessions at 2 different schools to teach kids safe cycling basics. And then something that we are really interested in also from the advocacy lens is to bring together parents who are especially focused on bicycle advocacy surrounding school zones. So that's a kind of a project that continues to grow. We've had a lot of parents reach out to us recently about how can they get involved to make sure that spaces around their schools are safe for students who are walking and biking to school as well. So that's kind of the advocacy element of that program itself. And then the 4th educational goal we have this year is to grow our Bike Buddies program. I mentioned it earlier and called it the Ride Guides program, but we've changed the name this year to the Bike Buddies, and we're hoping to pair 100 new bike riders with 100 veteran riders this year. These are going to be one-on-one rides between those pairs. I also like to think of it as you kind of get one pair that wants to ride with another pair. You start to form a bike group, and the next thing you know, you almost have your own neighborhood ride going on out of different bike buddy pairings. But this is an opportunity. Previously, we had a lot of people reach out to us and they were looking for ride opportunities. They said, I want to go on a bike ride. I'm new to biking. And we created these large rides for people who are new to biking. And there was a lot of like fear and hesitation about that. So we then created this program, which is a one-on-one opportunity, which gives a lot more hands-on learning for people who are either new to biking or biking again for the first time, or have moved to Indianapolis and want to be more comfortable biking here. But this is a great program for those riders. And like I mentioned, it's one of those kind of self-sustaining programs, because as riders become more comfortable, they can then become the veteran riders who will then ride with newer riders the next year. I know we have one in the chat. What is the commitment for mentors for Bike Buddies? Damon, you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong. I know previously we had said it's a ride every week during ride season, but I know that actually doesn't fit with most people's calendar.
No. Well, the first commitment is to attend a training class that lasts about an hour, where we talk to you about the knowledge we want you to impart to your new bike buddy. And then the commitment we ask for is that you will do at least 4 rides with a person that you're paired with Ideally, they would be 4 successive weeks, but they don't have to be. They could spread out over the entire season. You could have a bike buddy, go through your 4 rides with them, and decide that you are real buddies and want to keep doing it, or you get done with one and want to get paired with a new rider. So the minimum commitment is a 1-hour training class and 4 weekly rides. Oh, and Sonia's asking how to get paired up. There is a sign up on our website. If you go to our website to the volunteer page, you can get to the sign up. We're going to do the first training class right at the end of April, first part of May, and then we're going to start pairing up buddies. So if you sign up now, you'll get invited to that first training class.
I actually created a web page very recently. It's on our Bike Indianapolis website, which is dedicated specifically to the Bike Buddies program. So whether you're a new rider looking to sign up, there is a link to that sign up on there. And if you're a veteran rider, there's also that sign up available too. And you can find that in the main navigation bar of our website, just at bikeindianapolis.org. You'll see it up there. It'll be under the Get Involved tab. But if that's all for those questions right now, we'll move on to then our ride programming, which of course is everyone's favorite part of Bike Indianapolis, is going for bike rides. So if I can clear that, yep. First and foremost, we have our community rides. These are our neighborhood rides, as I mentioned before. We're looking to grow the program. We had 4 weekly rides last year, and we had strong leads on 4 other rides that we're wanting to get started as the season went on. So we're hoping to have a total of 10 weekly community rides. I mentioned the Near East Side ride that I did every week. It was led by John Hayes every single week. We have a group right now in Irvington who is very interested in starting a ride as well. And there's actually 3 members of our advocacy committee all live in Irvington, and all 3 of them said, well, I can't commit to leading it every single week. So at this point, I'm kind of like, okay, well, if one of you wants to lead one week and the other person leads the other week and the third person leads the third week after that, you can create a rotation. These neighborhood rides are meant to be something very, very casual. Our rides I think they were never longer than like 5.5 miles total. It's a very casual pace. John, like I said, very frequently would stop and tell us little stories about the neighborhood as we went. But these are just kind of rides to get together with your neighbor. I know someone asked previously if there can be a destination as opposed to just like doing a loop. And I was like, yeah, if you and your neighbors want to ride to the ice cream shop in your neighborhood and get ice cream one week, I'm not going to tell you you're not allowed to do that. You can do that for sure. That sounds like a great neighborhood ride to me.
That's a part of what we want folks to get out of these, is the idea that going for a bike ride doesn't have to be the end itself. It could just be the means. These rides are a chance for you to get to know some of your neighbors, to perhaps discover things in your neighborhood that you didn't know were there, or go get ice cream, because I'm a fan of ice cream.
But yeah, so if you're interested in if you need to find out, sorry, I just looked outside and it looks like it's snowing again. If you are interested in starting your own community ride, or trying to find out what neighborhood rides are available, you can find the neighborhood rides on, we'll start listing them on our website under the event calendar that we have. We'll also be sharing those on social media. But if you specifically are interested in starting a neighborhood ride, you can also sign up as a volunteer for that. That's all available on our website. But moving on to the next point, we have our bike ballet, which you saw that with Bike to the 500 photos there. Also, I mentioned Bike to the Ballpark. This is just an opportunity where we provide bike parking at public and private events. We did a ride and bike parking at Shakespeare in the Park from Indy Shakes last year as well. And these are the kind of things where it's like, these are all events that people are going to already. But by providing the bike parking there, it gives people an opportunity to then be like, oh, cool, now I have a place to lock up my bike. Like now now it's possible for me to bike to this event that I already was going to, but I can leave the car at home now. I can just go for a bike ride. We have those opportunities. We're constantly looking for volunteers for those as well. So I worked Bike to the Ballpark. It really is just bring a friend with you and you get to sit and chat next to the bikes in the rack for a couple hours. It's a very, very casual event. That being said, I got to watch the Indianapolis Indians home opener for absolutely free because I sat next to some bikes for the whole time. So a great way to get to see some different events as well. Moving on to our third ride goal for this year. I'll let you cover this one, Damon, because it's a big one. But the Major Taylor National Ride is coming up.
Major Taylor cycling clubs have existed for over 40 years. First one started in Columbus, Ohio in 1979. In that entire time, there's never been a gathering of all the clubs. And this year, we're going to host the first one here in Major Taylor's hometown. It's going to be in the middle of June, June 17, 18, 19. There's 3 days of riding. We've invited Major Taylor clubs from around the world. There are at least 5 outside of the United States. There's somewhere around 100 within the states. Right now, we have 25 states represented in already registered riders. So we're looking to put on the kind of event that Indianapolis is known for putting on. This will be a rotating event, so we only get this one shot at it until we go back to apply for it again. And we're looking for local riders to participate as well as volunteers to help out. I think we need somewhere close to 300 volunteers to pull off this event. So if you're interested in riding, that opportunity is available. If you're interested in volunteering, that opportunity is also available. And some of the volunteer positions would allow you to do both. So if you're interested, Lane, you'll have to tell them where it is because you do all the website stuff.
Yeah, for sure. If you go to our website, there is a tab at the top, and of course I'm blanking on it right now, but it'll pop down with become a member to Bike Indianapolis, and there's also become a member to the Major Taylor Cycling Club of Central Indiana. If you click that Major Taylor Cycling Club link, it'll take you to a page, not only where you can just sign up for membership, but it'll also take you to a page where there's a link for more information about the ride. But that's going to be June 18th to the 20th. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, 17, 18, 19.
There you go. And that's going to be a really big event. So we're really excited for that one. And there will be a lot of different riding opportunities for that coming up as well. Moving on to our last point. Actually, I'll check this comment in our chat real quick before we move on. Oh, yep. Thank you so much, Connie. But then the last point we have is bike racks. I'm sure you've all wanted to bike somewhere before, and the struggle of finding bike parking kind of, I guess, stops that from coming to fruition. We're really lucky to have Trent Taylor as our advocacy chair. He has documented more than I believe it's 1,200 bike racks in Indianapolis on Google Maps. So if you're ever in need of bike parking, you can literally go to Google Maps, search bike parking, and then an array of different bike racks will pop up if you're looking for one close to your destination. And chances are Trent Taylor is responsible for that being logged there. That being said, if there are any locations where you would like to see bike parking, we do have a bike parking resource on our website as well, where you can let us know what organizations or what businesses don't have bike parking, and we can reach out on your behalf and also connect them with resources for installing bike parking as well. And that just is one of those small things that the more bike parking there is, the more opportunity there's for people to bike. So
Just want to stick one thing in there. If you use Google Maps to find a bike rack, after you search for bike parking, you're gonna have to zoom in to like the 3 or 4 block level around where you want to go in order to see them. And most of those racks include a photo. So you can see, is this a rack I would like to leave my bike on or not?
Thank you so much, Damon. And volunteer info for the Major Taylor National Ride can be linked through the calendar events. Yep, there you go. So another way to get more information about those volunteer opportunities. And then moving on, I believe that is actually my last slide in terms of our 2022 goals. So these are all the ways that you can stay connected with us and involved with Bike Indianapolis. Sign up for our newsletter that comes out at the end of every month. It's the last Monday of the month. every month so you can stay up to date with what's coming up in the next month. And of course, I'm in charge of social media, so I'll be sharing all of our volunteer opportunities, different events we're hosting, and also just different educational resources online all throughout the week. So you can follow us all there to stay connected. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. But that kind of concludes the formal presentation that I have.
I think the one thing you didn't mention was Bike to Work Day.
Of course. Bike to Work Day. Damon, you know more about the event itself, but I can share where people can sign up for that if they're interested.
Bike to Work Day, National Bike to Work Day, is the third Friday in May, May 20th this year. And we are going to organize an event downtown on the Circle to encourage people to ride their bikes to work that day. We'll have light breakfast and some great words from a few noted folks, and our always hilarious Blessing of the Bikes, presented by John Hay and Aaron Spiegel. So if you work downtown, it's an easy thing. Ride your bike that day. If you haven't come back to work yet, ride your bike downtown and ride it back home. And if you're working from home, do the same thing. It's just an opportunity to get a lot of bike riders together. And it makes an impact on the community when they see us gather together on the Circle. There will also be a Bike to Work Day event in Carmel, in the plaza. And if you work somewhere other than those two places and you're interested in hosting a Bike to Work event, get a hold of us. We'll see if we can figure out how to make something happen.
Yeah, I think in the past we've had bike commuter, Indy bike trains lead groups from different places around the city.
And we're hoping we can pull that off again this year. But
hopefully we can do that, at least from some of the locations.
Right.
And one of the things that I've been getting a couple of inquiries about is when the bike and breakfast might start back up. And what I've been telling people is that we're going to determine how popular Bike to Work Day was and whether it would be feasible to start the bike and breakfast back up. So if you want to see bike and breakfast start back up, which are usually on the third Friday of the month through October, monthly, come to Bike to Work Day, because then that will help us determine that there's interest in continuing doing that. And one of the things that I did with Bike to Work Day, or not Bike to Work Day, with the Bike and Breakfast, is I would train the bike train leaders. So if you're interested in being a bike train, leading a bike train and leading a group of riders from where you live to downtown, you can either get a hold of Damon at Bike Indianapolis or me at Bicycle Garage Indy, and we can try and get that started up again.
I fat fingered that last thing. I put the link to sign up for the Major Taylor Invitational, and I'm going to stick in the link for volunteering here as soon as I find it. And then last, I'll stick in the link for volunteering for our other activities. So
awesome.
We'll have to hunt around for them because I haven't made them easy.
Yeah, so what I'll do, the links that you've got in the chat, I'll also put in the description of the video once it's of this recording, once it's uploaded to YouTube. So we'll have that available. And just for folks to know, every every spotlight on bicycling is recorded. And so we have an archive of probably 30 programs now. So if there's something that you want to learn about bicycling, it's probably in the last year and a half been covered. But I'm also looking for additional things to cover on Spotlight on Bicycling. So if there's a topic that you would like in the future, I've got the next 2 months kind of planned, but after that, it's wide open. So if there's other topics that you would like to see on Spotlight on Bicycling, yeah, we'll put the chat in as well as my email, and would love to have your suggestions. And Lane, did you have anything that you?
Nope, that was all for me. But if you have any questions or you think of any later on, I did include the info email here. So you can always shoot those to just at info@bikeindianapolis.org and we can respond to those. Or you can reach out to me personally. My email for Bike Indianapolis is lane@bikeindianapolis.org. So if there's any questions that you haven't been able to ask or haven't gotten to that you think of later, feel free to reach out.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thanks to Lane and Damon for presenting about Bike Indianapolis and all the great things that you're doing and all the great work that you are doing to help make bicycling better in Indianapolis. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, but thanks again.
And I want to say thanks to you, Connie, for doing this. You help spread the word, and you know, our mission is to get more people riding, and it starts by spreading the word.
Word out, Connie.
Thank you very much. I have fun spreading the word, so, and getting more people on bikes. That's part of what I do as advocacy director at Bicycle Garage Indy, is work on programs and projects to get more people bicycling. So any support that we can give to groups that are doing that, that's what that's what we try and do. So again, thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your evening. Hopefully it will actually be spring later this week, and maybe even summer on Saturday with 81 degrees and sunny. So we will hopefully see you out bicycling, and hopefully see you next month. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care.
Take care.